Chloë Sevigny's story does not begin with red carpets, flashing cameras, or luxury fashion campaigns. It begins in a quiet town where dreams feel distant and the idea of becoming a global icon seems almost impossible. Yet, from the very beginning, there was something different about her, something quietly rebellious, something that refused to blend in, and that spark would eventually ignite a career that would challenge the very definition of success in Hollywood. Because unlike many who chase fame, Chloë never chased approval, she chased authenticity. And that single decision became the foundation of everything she would later achieve. Growing up in Connecticut, she was surrounded by ordinary expectations. But inside her there was a pull toward something unconventional, something artistic, something raw and real. And when she eventually made her way into New York City as a teenager, she didn't arrive with connections or a clear path. She arrived with curiosity, courage, and an identity that didn't fit neatly into any box. Discovered on the streets of New York, her entry into the world of fashion wasn't polished or planned. It was organic, unpredictable, and entirely her own. And that's exactly what made people notice her. Because in an industry obsessed with perfection, Chloë stood out for being imperfect in the most captivating way. Her unique look, her effortless style, her refusal to conform to trends made her not just a model, but a muse. And soon she became associated with a new wave of fashion that celebrated individuality over uniformity. But even as doors began to open, she didn't allow herself to be defined by one industry. She wanted more. She wanted depth, she wanted to tell stories, and that desire led her into acting. A world that would test her in ways she could never have imagined. Her early roles were not glamorous or safe. They were bold, controversial, and often uncomfortable, but that was exactly the point because Chloë Sevigny was never interested in playing it safe. She was interested in truth, and truth is rarely comfortable. When she starred in Kids, a film that shocked audiences and critics alike, she didn't just act, she revealed a side of reality that many preferred to ignore. And while some questioned her choices, others recognized the courage it took to step into such raw territory, and that courage became her signature. A willingness to go where others wouldn't, to say yes when others said no, and to embrace roles that carried risk because she understood something that many overlook, that true impact comes not from comfort, but from honesty. And as her career continued, she built a reputation not just as an actress, but as an artist, someone who carefully chose projects that aligned with her vision rather than chasing mainstream approval. Her performance in Boys Don't Cry earned her critical acclaim and an Academy Award nomination. But more importantly, it proved that her instincts were right, that staying true to herself would not limit her, it would elevate her. Yet even in moments of recognition, she remained grounded, aware that success is not a destination, but a journey filled with constant reinvention. And what makes Chloë Sevigny's journey so powerful is not just what she achieved, but how she achieved it. She didn't follow a straight path. She didn't seek validation from the masses. She carved her own lane, one that was unpredictable, sometimes misunderstood, but always authentic, and in doing so, she became a symbol for those who feel out of place, for those who don't fit the mold, for those who are told they are too different, too bold, too unconventional. Because her life is proof that those very qualities are not weaknesses. They are strengths, and in an industry that often rewards conformity, she showed that there is another way, a way that may be harder, slower, and filled with doubt, but ultimately more meaningful. Beyond acting, her influence in fashion continued to grow, not because she followed trends, but because she created them. Her collaborations, her appearances, her personal style all reflected a deep understanding of self, and that authenticity resonated with people around the world, turning her into a cultural icon. But perhaps the most inspiring part of her story is not the fame, the awards, or the recognition. It is her resilience, her ability to stay true to her identity in a world that constantly tries to reshape it. Because there were moments of criticism, moments of rejection, moments where her choices were questioned. But she didn't let those moments define her. She used them as fuel, as reminders of why she started. And that mindset is what separates those who fade from those who endure. Because in the end, success is not about being liked by everyone. It is about being true to yourself and Chloë Sevigny embodies the truth in every step of her journey. As the years passed, she continued to evolve, taking on roles that challenged her, exploring new creative avenues, and proving that growth does not require abandoning your identity, it requires deepening it. And that lesson extends far beyond Hollywood. It speaks to anyone who has ever felt the pressure to conform. Anyone who has ever doubted their uniqueness. Anyone who has ever wondered if being different is a disadvantage. Because through her life, Chloë sends a clear message that being different is your greatest power, that the things that make you stand out are the very things that will set you apart, and that success built on authenticity is far more fulfilling than success built on imitation. And as you reflect on her journey, it becomes clear that her story is not just about fame or achievement. It is about courage, the courage to take risks, the courage to face criticism, the courage to remain yourself even when the world expects something else. And that is what makes her legacy so impactful. Because she didn't just succeed, she redefined what success looks like. She showed that you don't have to follow the rules to win, you don't have to fit in to belong, and you don't have to compromise who you are to achieve greatness. And in a world that often values perfection over authenticity, her story stands as a powerful reminder that true success comes from embracing who you are, fully and unapologetically, because at the end of the day, the most inspiring journeys are not the ones that follow a perfect path, but the ones that create their own. And Chloë Sevigny's journey is exactly that, a path of courage, individuality, and unwavering authenticity that continues to inspire millions to believe that they too can succeed, not by becoming someone else, but by becoming more of who they already are. And that is a message the world needs now more than ever, a message that will continue to resonate for generations, because it is rooted in a truth that never goes out of style, that being yourself is not just enough, it is everything. And if you carry that lesson forward, if you embrace your uniqueness, if you refuse to let the world define your worth, then you are already on the path to a success that is not only meaningful, but truly your own. Just like Chloë Sevigny, there comes a moment in every extraordinary life when the world quietly tests your limits, when it asks you without words whether you are willing to stay true to yourself even if it costs you everything. And for Chloë Sevigny, that moment didn't happen once, it happened again and again in different forms, at different stages of her journey. Because the path she chose was never meant to be easy, it was meant to be real. And reality often demands a price, especially in industries built on illusion, where perfection is manufactured and individuality is often seen as a risk rather than a strength. Yet she never allowed herself to be reshaped by those expectations. Instead, she leaned deeper into who she was, even when it meant standing alone, even when it meant being misunderstood. Because somewhere within her she understood a powerful truth that many people spend their entire lives trying to learn, that fitting in may bring temporary comfort, but standing out creates lasting impact. And so while others carefully calculated their moves, chasing roles that guaranteed applause, Chloë chose roles that carried meaning, roles that made people uncomfortable, roles that forced audiences to think, to question, to feel something deeper than surface-level entertainment. And in doing so, she slowly built something far more valuable than fame. She built credibility, she built respect, she built a legacy rooted in courage, and yet none of it came without doubt. Because behind every bold decision there are moments of uncertainty, moments where the easier path whispers louder, moments where the fear of rejection feels heavier than the desire to stay authentic. But what makes her story so powerful is not that she never felt fear, it's that she refused to let fear make her decisions. She moved forward despite it, trusting that her instincts would guide her even when the outcome was unclear. And that level of trust in oneself is rare. It's the kind of strength that doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention, but it quietly shapes destinies. And as her career continued to evolve, she didn't just remain relevant, she remained unpredictable. And in a world where predictability is often mistaken for stability, she chose the opposite. She chose growth, she chose exploration, she chose to constantly redefine herself without losing her core. And that balance between evolution and authenticity is what kept her journey alive. Because many people change in order to survive, But she evolved in order to stay true, and there is a difference. A powerful difference that can be felt in every role she plays, every project she touches, every appearance she makes, and beyond the screen, her influence became something even greater.